All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Professional Volunteer Podcast. Really excited about today's episode. First off, I have Kara joining us again as my co-host. Hi, Kara, welcome.
Hi.
And our guests today are Dan Kerrigan and Jim Moss. If you don't know Dan and Jim or are unfamiliar with them, they wrote a little book that's pretty popular in the fire service world, Firefighter Functional Fitness. I've been following these guys on social media for quite some time. They put out some really good content between the two of them, super inspiring. And I'm excited to have them both on the show today. So Dan and Jim, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm very excited to be here.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time to join us. Dan, let's start with you. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, and we'll go from there.
Sure. So I'm hailing from outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania here. I live in Chester County and work in neighboring Montgomery County as the Chief of Fire and Emergency Service for Upper Providence Township in Montgomery County, which, if you're familiar with this area at all, is just a little bit west of like the King of Prussia Mall area. So we've got a smaller combination fire department. So I think a lot of what you probably want to talk to us about tonight probably connects directly with with my department. But I've got about 35 years in, and a lot of that has been the volunteer side of things as well. So that's where I cut my teeth back in the 80s, and moved around a little bit, but that's where I'm at now. So we're building a fire department, trying to do some regionalization, and obviously, whether they like it or not, when they hired me, they hired on somebody that was going to put health and wellness right up at the top of the priority list. And so far, so good. It seems like they're doing all right with it. So I'm happy to be here.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for joining us. I'm really happy to have you. Jim?
Yeah, so I am a career fire captain with the Metro West Fire Protection District in St. Louis County, Missouri, in western St. Louis County. Been on the job for about 15 years or so now. Been an officer for the last 6 years. Also a certified personal trainer, peer fitness trainer through the IAFF. Just all around passionate about firefighter health, wellness, and fitness, and got connected with Dan. What is it now, Dan? About 5 years ago or so, maybe 6 years ago. We got all this started. Kind of grassroots organically and snowballed from there, and wrote Firefighter Functional Fitness, and we've been fortunate enough to say we've been having an impact not only in the American Fire Service but worldwide, with firefighters worldwide getting our book and letting us know how it's been helping them. So we're really excited to be on the show today, and thanks so much for having us.
Absolutely. Thank you. So you started to allude to what my first question was going to be. How did you guys meet? How did you guys link up?
Yeah,
Daniel?
well, I normally tell this story, so I'm going to let Dan tell the story.
Okay, sounds good.
Normally when he tells it, he says Tinder, but that's not really the case. So, yeah. So we were both, I guess, running parallel right back. I don't know when it was, 15 or 16, running parallel on social media, putting content out relative to firefighter wellness and fitness, and just trying to share that message, I guess, independently. And I guess that's how we met, right? We met on Twitter, and saw each other's posts, and we were writing articles here and there independently and so forth, and I reached out to him one day and said, hey, we're doing the same thing. I admire your style. You seem to have a good attitude about all this, and you're dedicated and whatnot, and so why not try to do something together? Maybe we'll write an article, which we ended up doing. We collaborated on an article for fire engineering on the online side, that ended up getting really popular, much to our surprise, and kind of went pretty viral at that time. And so with that success and the feedback we heard from Bobby and the gang there, we decided that maybe we were going to write a series of articles to follow up, short pieces. that initially is what ended up becoming, if you're familiar with the Big 8 of Firefighter Functional Fitness, we were going to do a piece on each one of those sections essentially. And as we started to develop all that, first of all, we started joking about writing a book, and then we kind of got serious about it. And then next thing you know, we were writing a book for real. And I don't know, 6-7 months later, after every day writing, we were just passing stuff back and forth via email. We never met actually in person until
Really?
later on, like what was it, like that October of that year?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. When we decided to do all the photos for the book.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So we literally started writing. We probably wrote most of the book without ever having met in person.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty strange actually, in a good way. We created the table of contents. We added to it. We picked subject matter that was even within the book, even more near and dear to our hearts. And it was about a 50-50 split all the way through. I would write primary on a chapter while he was writing primary on another chapter, and we would flip-flop them, edit, comment on each other's, and then move on. And it literally worked that way from chapter 1 to chapter 22, all the way through the book. And
Wow.
yeah, went down there and met up with him, spent a few days filming, videoing, taking some pictures, and I guess the rest is history, as they say.
Wow.
I consider him one of my best friends, and honestly a mentor. And you know, I think it's been a great partnership since then. So
Yeah. Amen, brother. Couldn't agree more.
That's awesome. So let me ask you guys this, and I ask this question to really anybody I've ever spoken to about fitness in the fire service. And I've had a few guests that I've spoken to about this topic. How were you received in the early days when you first started having these conversations?
Well,
Jim, you want to take that one?
like anyone. So within the fire service as a whole, our ideas were received pretty well because firefighters like simple. They like something that's easy to apply, and they like something that doesn't have a lot of fluff. You know, it's just straight and to the point.
Right.
And that's our message about fitness for firefighters: just getting down, you know, brass tacks is nitty gritty and is down to the fundamentals as possible without overcomplicating it. That's what firefighters like. And so honestly, it was received pretty well. And you know how it goes within your own fire departments and everything. People are like, hey, what's that guy doing? You know, I didn't know they wanted to do that, or he's writing a book, or, you know, within every your own fire department, there's always going to be some naysayers. But,
Sure.
you know, we all know to push past that, and we do what we're passionate about, right? And so we spread our message organically, and if you know you're passionate about it, you're persistent, you're going to succeed. And honestly, Dan and I are not authors. You know, we're not someone who set out to really write a book. It just all naturally, like I said, it was the snowball effect. We started pretty small, writing articles, what we thought was important for firefighters in their fitness. And then it just grew from there, joking around about writing a book. And then it blew up after that. And, you know, like I said, the rest is history. It's been pretty awesome. And to have the success we've had and have the, you know, positive impact on people's lives. We get messages, simple things, you know, people saying, hey, I bought your book. I applied the principles in it. I'm down, you know, 50 pounds, 100 pounds. And just to hear that, you know, for all the hundreds of hours we pour in to Firefighter Functional Fitness, you know, just to hear those messages of hey, you helped me achieve my goals. I mean, that's where it's at. That's what's important. Not being able to say that your book is a quote unquote #1 bestseller or this or that. It's more important to hear people say, hey, you helped me and you were a part of it. So that's what's rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely.
I joked it with Jim and our publisher right in the very beginning, and told them, I said, I'll just be happy if my sister buys a copy of the book. One gets sold, you know, that, you know, which I actually gave her one, so I didn't charge her. But I think I was really, really amazed that when we put this together, we tried to be simple about it, and apparently it filled a hole that I didn't even really know existed in the fire service. A lot of the feedback we get is that we really appreciate that you did this, because we know we need to do something, but we just literally didn't know what to do. We did,
Hmm.
you see the people go to the gym and they stand around, look at the machines, they wander around, pick something up for a couple of reps, put it back down. It's kind of like that on a larger scale. And I, 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 I'm just blessed to be working with a guy that between the two of us, we were lucky enough to put something out there that, in my mind should have already been done.
Right.
Not by us, but it wasn't. And I was honestly scared to death when we were getting close to publishing that we were going to have done all this and then something was going to come out on the market like a week before we were ready to release our book. Right. But
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
how did nobody do this yet? Because it seems so simple to us. But at the end of the day, it's just a pleasure to know that it has helped somebody, anybody. And that's really all it was meant to be. And I think if you go into it with that attitude, you go into it with it's more or less a selfless attitude that we just
Hmm.
want to try to help whoever we can. And that's really all there is to it. And the book performs for itself. It doesn't need us.
That's great. Kara, I know you're chomping at the bit. I can see your wheels turning. So jump right in. Come on.
I really am so excited to talk to both of you, and I had the opportunity to meet Jim at one of your on-sites, which was a great experience, and I enjoyed it very much.
I'm so sorry I missed that. I was so disappointed knowing that there's a
I
big following up there in the Rochester area, right, with us. Really, there is. And
yeah.
I could not, I was beside myself when I had to like step out of that and it had another commitment. I'm like, are you kidding me? But I love going to do the workshop. So anyway, that was disappointing to me, but
The workshop was incredible. It was so great to be able to do it in real time.
Right.
And after, my dog-eared copy of my book going everywhere with me, and Jim got to see it himself.
Yes, I loved it.
But I would really like to talk about the Big 8 and where the concept from that for that originated. Was that something that you guys put together right away, or was that something that developed out of you going back and forth on the fundamentals of firefighter functional fitness?
Yeah, so it was something that we developed right away, and I would probably say adopted, because we just basically looked, well, first of all, I'll go over what the Big 8 is. So the Big 8 is the basic physical fitness pillar that we share in our book and our workshop. So it consists of core strength, cardiovascular capacity, flexibility, and then there's the last 5, which are functional strength categories. And they're firefighters specific movements that we perform on the fire ground: pushing, pulling, lifting, carrying, and dragging. So that's the Big 8 altogether. And like you said, we didn't create anything there. We didn't invent anything there. Obviously, core strength, flexibility, cardiovascular capacity are important for everyone's fitness, right? But they're especially important for firefighters as the basic fundamentals to build on other things on, especially the functional strength categories. And when we're talking about pushing, pulling, lifting, carrying, and dragging, the last 5, those are just things we adopted. Like I said, we didn't invent anything. Those are just natural movements that firefighters do. And so, like Dan said before, it's funny to say, but how did something this simple before? We like to say we never really invented firefighter functional fitness. We just kind of adopted it and kind of shed more light on it for other people to help adopt into their own fitness routines. So yeah, that the Big 8 has been part of our thought process, our methodology since the beginning. And to say that we invented anything is probably far-fetched. We more so just looked at what basic principles, the most important principles, what we believe for firefighters. We just put it together as 8 basic things that firefighters can do to functionally improve their fitness.
It's like we just packaged it up and put it in a format that I think we were hoping that the firefighters across the country and the world would relate to.
Right.
And what better way to do that than just kind of reverse engineer it and think about what it is that we do every day when we go out there on the street. Like Jim's saying, we weren't the inventors of the squat or the, the overhead press or whatever. But when you take that and you actually connect it to something that we do on the fire ground, then it opens up a whole new world. Amazingly, surprisingly, to some level, it's just something that seems natural. And I mean, how we all are. We just want to know what to do so we can get on with it and do it. And we want to make sure that it's worth our time and it's relevant. And I mean, the whole definition of functional fitness is that it needs to be relevant to what you do as a firefighter or as a soccer player or a police officer or whatever it is that you do. It should be relevant. And I just think that I guess we just came up with a way to relate it in a way that people could easily understand and not drag them down with a bunch of, gibberish and complex theories and all kinds of stuff, and just said, here, go out and do it. Yeah. Just go do it. If you're doing one or more of these things, then you're probably doing something right.
Right. I think you make a really interesting point to the folks that are going into a gym and just kind of wandering around or looking and not knowing when to get started. I mean, I think all firefighters should have in the back of their mind that they need to be physically fit and they need to build strength and have those kind of simplistic goals at a bare minimum if you're going to go into firefighting, whether it's career or volunteer. But I think that what you two have brought out that was missing was that piece of this is how you do it as a firefighter, because there's so many options, right? It's very overwhelming. Like, there's high intensity interval training, which of course you guys talk about in your book, which is so important to the core work that we do. And then there's, brands like CrossFit, and then there's powerlifting, and there's so many options and choices. And I think to your point, as firefighters, it can be really overwhelming and you don't know really where to start or what is the best thing. And if you're just going to your hometown gym and working with the trainer who's probably a great trainer and very knowledgeable and skilled, they may not have that information for you on what you should be working on as a firefighter.
Sure.
And I think that missing piece was filled in with your book and the work that you're doing. And I think that it kind of brought to light how specific that kind of training is for firefighters.
Yeah. We suffer from information overload in the fire service in general, no matter if it's fitness related or whatever. But so, you could go to 5 different, fitness trainers and get 5 completely different, approaches to what you should be doing. And
right.
Like I said, I'm glad you said that, because it's nice to hear the feedback that I guess it's essentially just simplifies everything just for us. It applies to other people. Don't get me wrong. You could go out and do this no matter your occupation, but we didn't have that. We didn't have that in the fire service.
Well,
and I think there's, if I may say something, Brian, if that's okay. I think there's something to be said about firefighters who know the job. Between Dan and I, now we have, he said he had 35 years, I got 15 years on the job. So I think there's something to be said for firefighters who have a combined experience of 50 years of the job, of stretching hose lines, pulling ceilings, forcible entry, all the different things that are basic functions that we do as firefighters. I think there's something to be said to someone who actually puts on the gear, masks up, and does all these things. I just had a post on social media the other day. I've gotten in the habit of actually recording my workouts on my recording when I have a working fire on my Apple Watch. And I posted that the other day, and just some interesting statistics. We were on this fire, probably actively doing work for about an hour. And then, there's a long process of just doing some slow overhaul after that. My heart rate had gotten up to my max heart rate, which was 181, and I had burned about 1,300 calories over that time. And so there's something to be said for someone who goes through that and then is also trying to train someone physically to be able to do the job. Like Kara said, I'm sure that trainer is great at the gym, and I applaud all the personal trainers out there and I should say the scholars who write about all this, physical fitness and exercise science. But there's something to be said for, just a simple firefighter who goes out and does the job, but also understands the importance of physical fitness. And I think that's one of the great things that Dan and I can share, is just that level of credibility and relatability also that firefighters can just connect with.
What did I say to you last week? That little quip I had when I saw a picture of it might even have been you, Jim. They were doing a dumbing drag in a training scenario, and I said, we should use this as one of our motivational posts. And the quote, the quote would simply be, "If you think it's difficult doing this now, you should try it at a fire."
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And I can guarantee you, it's 100 times more difficult because there again, like Jim has said, I hate to use a cliche, but it's been there, done that. It's, we've experienced that kind of stuff and been through that kind of stuff on the fire ground and just whether it's getting yourself out of a bad situation or pulling somebody out of a bad situation or whatever. It's no joke. It's no joke at all. And it takes every last ounce of your mental and physical will to get it done. And that's, I think, a good motivational piece that we try to keep out there in the forefront.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Regarding what Kara was saying about people going to the gym and maybe or maybe not hooking up with a personal trainer, I think that's one of the biggest problems with fitness that you see is, people that don't traditionally exercise, that all of a sudden wake up one day for whatever reason it may be to decide that they're going to start exercising, whether it's because they're a firefighter or not, and go down to their local gym and they're sitting there staring at the equipment wondering, okay, I'm here. Now what do I do? Right. How many of them, actually will go and work with a trainer? Probably most don't. Guys, we all know guys are stubborn, right? So guys will stand there and kind of stare at everybody and be like, all right, well, I know I got a bench press because I'm a guy, so I'm gonna bench press a little bit, but no program, no idea as to what they're doing. And when it comes to firefighters and our lane here being volunteer firefighters, just getting them to take that initial step to realize, listen, just because you're not doing this every single day, right? It might be 3 days in between alarms. You still need to be prepared for this. I saw that post with your Apple Watch, and that's not something I've ever done. But I saw it and I was like, I need to do that the next time I go to a fire, just because I'm curious. I'm curious as to what and I'm a chief, so I might be standing at the truck and my heart rate not be doing anything. But that is something to show somebody to be like, listen, this is what's going on in your body when you're working at that fire.
Exactly. And one of the things we try and communicate, two things I want to say. One of the things we try and communicate is that fitness, being fit for duty, is the absolute minimum requirement of every firefighter, whether you're career, paid on call, volunteer, I don't care.
Yeah.
Because there are so many other hazards that we face within the fire service nowadays. We could go on and list 30 different things that are detrimental to our health in one way or another. And then you throw on top of that all the technical training, all the didactic knowledge, everything else that goes on top of that. So when we're talking about fitness, I mean, that's why we're so big on saying that it is the basic minimum requirement for every firefighter. You get that down, I mean, you increase your work capacity. You're making better decisions on the fire ground when you're better physically conditioned. And so it's a win-win-win for everyone. Unfortunately, I forgot my second point because I just went on a tangent too long with my first point, but that's okay.
I would argue that if you consider going to a fire and doing what Jim described and logging all that data, if you consider that, and you should consider that a workout, that is a workout. Actually, we get asked all the time, well, if I had a working fire, do I have to go back to the station and still do my workout I had planned? And I'm like, no. You're
done.
But from the volunteer perspective, I would argue that maybe there's even more of a need to be ready for that, unless you're lucky enough to be on a very busy company or department that runs these fires all the time, which I I don't know about you, but we're not.
Yeah.
Then maybe the frequency, the fact that there's less of a frequency of those strenuous incidents, maybe even goes to even more emphasis on.
Yeah, I love that Mark Von Oppen from Fully Involved says 99% of the job is preparation, 1% is execution. I mean, and that's so true. I mean, whether you're at a busy engine house or fire company, or you're a slow one, I mean, we all know that our training, it's everything. So whether that's physical training, whether that's hands-on training, whether that's classroom training, whatever, that's why we train. So when that 1% of our time of that working fire, or whatever the nature of the call is, when it's time to perform, we can execute. And that's why our training.
That's what Frank Viscuso had said, in his sort of quote or endorsement, is he said to everybody that would read it, I promise you at some point in your career, you're going to be tested. You're going to be pushed to the limit. And then and only then are you going to find out if you, and I'm paraphrasing.
If you're prepared enough. Yeah.
You're prepared enough to really do this job the way it needs to be done. It's not a joke, and it doesn't make a bit of difference to me whether you draw a paycheck or not. It makes no difference.
Right. Well, listen, we know ourselves best, right? And when I talk to people and young firefighters about myself and why, what sparked me to pay more attention to my physical ability. Look, I was a young guy in my 20s. I've always been this frame. I've never had a weight issue, regardless of what I ate and whether it was healthy or not, Mom and Dad blessed me with good metabolism. That's what I tell people,
It'll slow down sooner or later.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh yeah, I know. And that's what it was. But, I vividly remember the fire or fires where I said to myself, you need to do something.
That was the same impetus that I had to really take this here, part of it anyway, I should say. Right. Some of it being research and things I was doing at the National Fire Academy. My own department that I used to work for, we clearly had a problem. We had clearly had a problem with obesity and some of the guys and things like that. But it really, when it comes down to it, to your point, was going through in a neighboring city here, an arson crisis that we had dealt with for probably a good couple of years straight.
Wow.
I sat down one day and said, I can't do this like this anymore. My what did I say before? My 20-something-year-old brain is not able to keep up with my 40-something-year-old body anymore, or vice versa, whatever it is.
Right, sure.
And I couldn't do it. I was taking too long to recover. I just said, I'm never going to be able to do this at the level I did when I first joined the fire service, unless I get my butt in to the gym and get in shape. And it happens to everybody at some point. So, if we can prevent that from happening to begin with, that's even better.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the other things in the book that I love and I think is so important is that you touch on and talk about equipment and what to use to to enact these functional movements. And I think it's particularly right now with COVID and having people not being able to have access to gyms or equipment and things like that. Talk a little bit, Dan, if you can, about what kind of equipment options and choices that you have to complete these workouts that are in your book.
Sure. People hate to hear this, so you know that, right? Because the first thing I'm going to say is, if you have a body, you can train, and it's really the truth. So part of the effectiveness of the book and the methods and the theory behind it all is that you absolutely do not need a specialized gym equipment or machines or anything like that to accomplish what we set out and laid out in that book, and more importantly, to accomplish becoming a healthier, more fit firefighter. You have a body, you have literally hundreds of body weight exercises to start with that you can do, not only for strength, but also for flexibility, for cardiovascular capacity, and for a combination of all those things. And then you have if you have a fire truck, which most fire departments do, and it has like ladders and hose on it, which again, most fire departments do, then you have those kinds of pieces of equipment and appliances and implements that you use on a regular basis out on the fire ground. And there's no reason why you can't use those to not only improve your fitness, but also the added bonus of improving your own proficiency with the said equipment when you're training with it. So we've got how many different videos and movements that we've done with ladders and hoses, right, Jim?
Right.
All kinds of different stuff. All you have to do is take that, whatever it is, a ladder, for example, and apply it to one of those or more of those elements of the Big 8, pushing it, pulling it, lifting it, carrying it, or dragging it. And if you're doing it at a certain pace, then you've automatically added in cardiovascular capacity. And if you're doing it correctly, you probably added in flexibility. And again, if you're doing it correctly, you'll most certainly have to engage your core to accomplish the movement you're trying to do. So now I've just covered every one or more of the functional strength categories and all three of the foundational categories in the Big 8 by doing something with a ladder or a hose line. So
yeah,
really that simple.
And whether you have our book or not, one of the great resources that we provide to people is our YouTube channel. There are about 400 videos on our YouTube channel, and we've broken them up into different things. Body weight exercises, I believe there's about 170 body weight exercises that we've put on there. And then we've broken down everything into the Big 8 already for people to digest. So if anyone is ever in need of a little motivation or ideas for the workout, right? Yeah, we have workouts on there too. So
circuits, all kinds of stuff.
So go to YouTube and in the search bar, just type in Firefighter Functional Fitness and subscribe to our page. Then you're going to have tons and tons of workout and exercise ideas on there.
Awesome.
Firefighters like food and free. So
Very
it's not
true.
food, but the YouTube channel's free. So
very true. Have either of you had any conversations or discussions along the way about incorporating? Obviously, when you go to a career academy, there's a fitness component to that career academy, right? Normally, something.
Sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
In the volunteer world, obviously we're probably not gonna, we're not doing morning PT because we're usually training at 7 o'clock at night at a county training center somewhere. But there is no, if you look at what we call the Firefighter 1 curriculum, right? There is no component in there when it comes to health and wellness. And you would think there would be.
You would think.
You would think that.
You detect the sarcasm. And
I do detect it.
Some states have instituted that.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like, for example, like North Carolina, in their state firefighter certification program, there are modules, and there are now at least basic ones
mm-hmm.
to talk about, the effects of firefighting and health and wellness and things like that. Unfortunately, like anything else in the American Fire Service, there's no federal oversight or for example, of any of it, really. So
sure.
If you come to Pennsylvania, I'm embarrassed to say that the only thing you have to have in Pennsylvania to be a firefighter by law is a hazmat awareness training.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Here's your gear. Hop on the truck. Let's go. Now reality is that, thank goodness most fire departments actually put people through fire training. But yeah, it's very frustrating that we spend a lot of time on other things, but we don't start at the very beginning and teach them about what they're about to get into and
sure.
how it can affect them short-term and long-term. Imagine if at the top of every firefighter application it said in bold letters, warning, firefighting is hazardous to your health.
Mm-hmm.
You can contract cancer, you can get seriously injured or even die. It's very likely that by engaging in this profession, you will encounter some sort of, disease or injury throughout your career that could imagine that. How many people will we even get to apply?
Sure.
Or even when we're looking at line of duty deaths and the overwhelming percentage of line of duty deaths that are related to medical conditions or cardiac
mm-hmm.
health. And I think that's really, unfortunately, not spoken about enough.
No.
Because some of it obviously is not preventable, but a lot of it is preventable. And if we're not going to talk about those numbers and not going to talk about how to prevent those line of duty deaths, you can look at NIOSH reports when they come out, and you can look at what happened on the fire ground that caused it. But are we also not serving our firefighters by glossing over health and wellness?
Right. No, and that's something and Jim would probably agree that that's kind of near and dear to my heart in terms of when we come out and do those workshops. And I know you went through one, and the first thing that we start talking about before we talk about picking up a weight or doing any movement is we're going to have a gut check session here, and we're going to tell you how bad this is for you if you don't take care of yourself. We're going to tell you all about all these risk factors that are specific to firefighters over and above the general population. And the fact that you can add all these together and that makes it even worse, right? That's important to me, that we spread that message and as much as, because you have to, it's not necessarily that we're trying to sensationalize it or scare people into doing things to create that kind of a drama, but people need to know, Carrie, you're right. They need to know exactly what the heck's going on inside your body when you go out there to do that. And it affects you and everybody else around you.
Yeah.
And Brian, I think one thing you were kind of alluding to is that there needs to be some type of minimum standard for all firefighters when it comes to job performance and mainly physical fitness that is tied to that job performance. So in our class, it's in our book as well. I believe it's, Dan, help me out. What chapter is the physical agility assessment? Anyway, not sure. Yeah, you go look it up. The book's right behind me. But anyway, so we describe for fire departments, whether you're career or volunteer or whatever, we describe how to set up and create a physical agility assessment for your fire department. It doesn't matter if you're career or volunteer, anyone can do this. And so one of the things that's one of the things we also share in our 11 steps to creating a culture of firefighter fitness at every fire department. That's another class that we have. We teach firefighters how to, and fire departments, how to set this up at their own fire department. And basically it's stringing together between, 8 and 12 firefighter tasks that everybody should be doing. Simple stuff like stretching a supply line to the hydrant, connecting to the hydrant, carrying ladders, stretching a dry attack line, carrying things like a ladder, setting up a ladder, simple things like that. And yes, the firefighters are in their full gear. Some of the tests can be on air, breathing off their SCBA cylinder. But all these different things that are so simple and basic functions of what every firefighter should be doing, we can string together in an assessment, and we give parameters for that, that every fire department, every firefighter can implement and adopt at their own fire department for what they need to do for themselves. So is it a national standard? No, it's not a national standard, but it's something that can be adopted at the fire department level, and type of accountability and standard within that own fire department.
Brian, you mentioned going to like a county training center and doing the Monday night training or whatever. And that reminds me of, we get asked a lot about how do you get people to do these sorts of things, right? When they're not motivated or they don't have time or whatever the case may be, all the excuses you can think of.
Sure.
When you go to a place like that, when you set up your evolutions for training, simply by the way you set those things up, similar to what Jim just described, you can put people through a workout without them even realizing they're doing it. So because you're doing firefighter-like stuff that you're supposed to be doing in training, if you pick up the pace of a 5-step evolution up and down a drill tower, for example, with a few different tasks involved in it, and you run that 3 or 4 times to become proficient in it, you've provided a workout for firefighters and they don't even realize they're doing it half the time, So there's lots of little tricks of the trade like that we can get incorporated into the program to get people a little bit more motivated and get them moving.
Well, what we've always had incorporated into our state program here, and it's changed over the years what it's called. Now it's called task-oriented air consumption.
Right.
That is usually the point, and it's early on in the program. That's usually the point where somebody realizes if this is for them or it's not for them,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's a wake-up call, and I always hope that it's a wake-up call for somebody, and have that conversation saying, listen, this doesn't mean that your journey is over.
Right.
This just means that you might need to take some time and focus on yourself and come back and do this again. Because listen, some departments in the volunteer world are just happy that a warm body showed up and filled out an application, right?
Correct.
So they're happy to have them. They're hoping they can go out and get their certifications so they can utilize them for whatever certification that they can get. And, maybe that individual didn't realize, wow, this is work. This is, this is actually going to put me through some
Right.
pretty good paces here. And
there's no easy way to say it, but no matter how you cut it, the job is not necessarily for everybody.
Absolutely.
Volunteer or career. And so the old method of, we're the volunteer fire department, we'll take anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm not suggesting by any means that there aren't plenty of things that certain people can do that aren't maybe up to the level of being able to be an interior firefighter, but
Sure.
Not everybody can necessarily be an interior firefighter, at least not right away. And we have to be honest with ourselves about that, because otherwise we're setting people up for failure. We're setting people up for things that they're not going to like. And that eye-opening thing should absolutely occur in the early stages of a recruit academy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a joke. I keep saying that, I know, but this stuff that we do is not a joke.
Right.
In my mind, I hate to say it like this, but I've taught in the fire academies for over 20 years. And I used to tell the students that came in there, we're not doing our job if every single one of you graduates from this fire academy.
Yeah,
I hate to say it, because there's just no way that should happen. And not because you want them to fail, but it's the way it happens. If you can't let people slide on this stuff, and nobody lets you slide on the fire ground. So you got to be prepared. You got to get your mind into it, your body into it, prepare ahead of time. And then after you're hired on or you're volunteering, that you stay prepared. It wasn't just to get on the job test.
There's two conversations that I think are often missed, and that's the fitness component, and the other one is the hydration component. And we have this conversation a lot also. You have these kids, they roll in, and like their idea of hydration is drinking a Mountain Dew on the way to class.
Right.
A Monster.
Or a Monster, a couple Bangs, and a Red Bull, to wash it down. And and that's the other place where I often see, you see the dehydration thing happen, and they might have the skills and ability, but they're just they don't know what they need to be doing, and that's why I think this is all so important, that it's a part
it's our job
of the
to
program.
teach them that.
Yeah, for sure.
It really
Absolutely.
is. It's not just Jim and I, it's all of our job.
Absolutely.
To understand all the important components of being an effective firefighter. There's too many people that depend on you.
Exactly. And that's why hydration is one of our 4 pillars within Firefighter Functional Fitness. So exactly. So that's exactly why we share that. I'm glad you bring that up, Brian.
Yeah. Well, and I had this, I just had this conversation with some people last week. Again, if you're going to work a shift, and what your shift is, you're going to be working from 8 to 8, and you're going to be on for that 24 hours. You can prepare or be prepared for that 24 hours. If you don't know when the pager on your hip is going to go off or by your bedside, and you're sound asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, if you're not preparing for that throughout the day, and this was the conversation we were having about hydration, you can't swing back 16 ounces of water on your way to the call and call yourself hydrated. Especially, it's been 90 degrees here for the last 2-3 weeks. You need to be doing this all day, every day. That way, when you have that 2 a.m. alarm, that component is there for you. you know,
Right.
you are
Exactly.
hydrated.
There's
you
no
know?
way you can play catch up with that. And
Right.
unfortunately, it doesn't work the way you can drink 15 cups of water first thing in the morning and you've checked that box for hydration for the day.
Exactly.
Bodies don't work that way, right? So you've got to
Exactly.
have it with you. You got to be carrying it with you. You got to be
Yep.
doing it. And that's a great point. Combine it with heat stress and your dehydration and heat stress, and you're headed down a very dangerous path, no matter your age. Doesn't
Absolutely.
matter.
Absolutely. Kara?
One of the other things that I think is great about the book is it's not just 100% about the intensity workouts and the strength training, things like that. It talks so much about the importance of flexibility. And Jim, can you expand on that a little bit about why that's so important for firefighters? And I think it's a big block for firefighters to understand why flexibility is so important.
Yeah, and I think most of us know, I'm glad you brought that up. I think most of us know that sprains and strains within the fire service are so prevalent. And we're not going to say that all that stems from a lack of flexibility, but we know that by enhancing our flexibility, we're also enhancing our mobility, right? Our ability to move. And we all know when we're weighed down with 60 to 70 pounds of gear, that's providing all sorts of different extreme stresses on our body. So the more that we can improve our flexibility and our mobility outside of the fire, the better we're going to be able to prevent injuries, and the better we're just going to be able to move, right? I mean, I can tell you that some firefighters are so tight, especially in their shoulders, those who are of the bodybuilding mindset, they're so tight in their shoulders that they can't sit in their seat and put on their shoulder straps from their SCBA.
Right.
And some firefighters are also so tight they can't turn on their own cylinder behind you. They themselves and turn on their own cylinder because they lack the flexibility and mobility to do that. So not only is it important to reducing our risk of strains and sprains and all that good stuff, it's just important to be able to move well and do our job, right? I mean, the basic things behind that. And so what we encourage firefighters to do, we don't, it's nothing too crazy, but if you ask anybody, firefighters who work out, if they do any type of cool down stretching, probably 90% are probably going to say no. If you ask them the same question about warm-up stretching, like dynamic stretching, the answer is probably also no. They probably just go straight into it. And so that's what we encourage firefighters to do is that warm-up dynamic stretching with movement. And then for cool downs, doing the static stretching, which is more the reach and hold stretches. And then also throughout the week, encouraging firefighters to do something like functional yoga, or some people like to do ROMWOD, is another mobility, flexibility thing that firefighters can do. So whatever you choose to do, like we say in our book, make sure it's simple, it's functional, and it's effective, and it's going to apply to our job. And don't overcomplicate it. But I'm glad you brought that up as one of the pillars, because 90% of firefighters do not take care of themselves when it comes to flexibility and mobility.
Right. Yeah. And when you have on just your turnout gear, just without your SCBA pack on or anything, I had done a post of me doing a simple stretch in just regular workout clothes, and then just with bunker pants on, and then with my turnout coat as well. And it's just, it's very interesting to try to understand what that feels like.
Right.
And I think that people don't even really think about it or notice it, and they're not focused on that. But just a simple thing like that, just to see what your flexibility is as you start to add equipment and tools and things like that, it changes it drastically. And so if you're not flexible just in your street clothes or workout clothes, it's not going to get better once you add your turnout gear. Right.
Yeah. And there's different statistics out there, but a conservative one is that once we put on all of our turnout gear, all of our gear, SCBA, everything, our basic movement decreases by about 25%. So think about how much that is, and all the functions and tasks we need to perform yes, flexibility and mobility is definitely a bare minimum requirement for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So I wanted to also talk to you guys a little bit about some of your social content outside of the book, right? Lots of leadership pointers, motivational pointers. I look forward to them. I share a lot of them on my page because every one of them should speak to somebody, right? So somebody somewhere along their journey. So I'm just curious as to where that comes from for you, where that inspiration comes from.
Dan, do you want to talk about the 3 A's?
Yeah. So for me, and I speak for Jim, I'm sure, but for me, everything that we've been talking about for the last, I don't know, 45 minutes or so, starts with our own personal attitude, accountability, and then putting those important things into actual action and not just talking about them. Right. So I think mainly for me, the motivation comes from the fact that I have a personal responsibility. As a firefighter, whether I'm a chief or a firefighter or anything in between, is irrelevant. I believe that, and Jim does, that we have to hold ourselves to a higher standard. That we're required to hold ourselves to a higher standard, and that's part of what we do. And so we have to start out with the right attitude right from Jump Street, and knowing that if your mind is right, your body can do just about anything is an important concept to believe in, right? So there's the attitude that you possess, and that attitude is contagious. All right. So if I come in, with my shoulders dropped and with a pissy look on my face all the time and just, I'm miserable all the time, then it's only going to affect people negatively after a while, right? It's just natural. It's human nature, So our attitude, how we carry ourselves, how we hold ourselves accountable as we move into the accountability. When I say accountability, I'm not talking about 2 tags and keeping track of where we are on the fire ground. I'm talking about, walking the talk. I'm talking about leading by example. I'm talking about, as a fire chief, I'm talking about, getting out from behind my desk and getting out there with the firefighters and doing the same things that I'm asking them to do. I'm talking about the company officers, who are probably the most important cog in this whole system, that they take the time on a shift by shift basis or a weekly basis to say to themselves and to write down on a board or something like that, what am I going to do this day or this week or this shift to improve the health and wellness of my firefighters on my crew? What am I going to do? What are we going to do today to make it that kind of a priority? And then lastly, it's just putting it into action, because otherwise it's just words. It doesn't matter what you say, but if you get out there and you're doing it and you're demonstrating that you're trying to lead by example, and hopefully that's what people see. When somebody puts something out on social media that's catchy or trendy or whatever it is in the fire service, that you're going to take it one way or the other. You're going to take it as whatever, it's just another cliche, jargon, saying or whatever, or acronym. We're big on acronyms too, right? But if we're showing people this is how you do it, and we're not just asking you to do it or telling you to do it, we're doing it ourselves. It's this important. And if you don't have the right kind of attitude and personal accountability, if you don't hold each other accountable, lift each other up, and motivate each other and be positive, then everything else in the book is not going to matter, really. I can teach anybody how to do an exercise. That's mechanical. It's up here in the head that really matters the most.
Yeah. So, And Brian, what I think you're referring to a lot is what you see and what we post on social media, right? A lot of motivational leadership type quotes. And 2 things I want to say is, we'll argue day in and day out that fitness is 90% mental and 10% physical, or 10% execution. We have got to get our minds right. And that's what I was saying before. We have got to believe and know within inside of ourselves that physical fitness is the bare minimum basic requirement. So once we believe that, then the rest is pretty easy, right? Putting it all into action, whether you use our program or someone else's program, getting your mind right, getting your heart right, to make sure that you're ready to uphold that oath. The other thing I'll say is that, when it comes to all the leadership quotes or, motivational quotes that we put out there, as many others have said before, Frank Fuscuso has said, you have got to lead yourself before you can lead anyone else.
Yep.
And so that comes down to your fitness as a firefighter. If you can't handle that in the first place, then you're not going to get very far within this profession. So those are why we post so much about those things, about those topics within our social media pages, is because they're near and dear to us. And like Dan said, with the attitude, the accountability, and the action, it's a entire package. It's not just about picking up weights and putting them down, right? It's about, making sure our mind's right, our heart's right for the job. So we can, we can go work out, but it's also about, making sure we're serving our public and doing everything for the right reasons. So I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Thank you. Kara, any other questions?
No, any final thoughts from Jim and Dan, and are they where are you guys headed, or are we still on COVID hold, or what's up and coming?
I'm so frustrated.
We'll be going to Spartanburg, South Carolina for a 2-day workshop. Hopefully, it's scheduled the 12th and 13th of September. We're going to do a 2-day workshop here in St. Louis County at my fire department at Metro West. And then we're just still going to be active on social media. As I'm sure everyone has experienced a slowdown. We've definitely experienced a slowdown with everything we're doing. And we're just trying to stay active, and trying to reach people through social media and our YouTube channel. So that's basically what we've been up to. And if you don't mind, we'll share how people can get in touch with us.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So our website is firefighterfunctionalfitness.com. Our email, if you want to reach both Dan and I, is firefighterfunctionalfitness@gmail.com. And on our website, there's free downloads that you can have. You can learn more about our book, our workshops. If you just have a question or an inquiry, let us know. We answer everyone's messages, emails, all that good stuff. If you want to hop on a call with us to discuss something, just let us know. We're just basic firefighters like everybody else. So we like talking fitness, and if we can help you, just let us know.
Yeah, we definitely, I know I speak for Jim when I say I think one of the most enjoyable parts of this whole adventure has been is actually getting out to the different departments across the country and doing the live training with them. And so we just want to emphasize that we're getting back into that. We understand people have the concerns and have done some cancellations. There were several other departments I was at some stage of working on finalizing a workshop, and we're starting to try to get those back together. But we can assure you that if you want us to come out, if a plane or a car or a train will get us there, we'll come. We'll make sure that we're obviously going to handle it with all the precautions necessary that the guidance that's out there. We certainly don't take that lightly. But we're starting to try to get back into it. We want to get back out there and do those things and connect with people in person. And so if you have any interest in that at all, feel free to email us or go on our website and, hook up with us, and we'll send you the info. We're lucky we've been able to go to a couple departments on more than one occasion, actually,
Nice.
Which is kind of nice to go back and retrain them and, recertify them. We're ACE certified Con Ed providers. So for those of you out there that are pure fitness trainers or ACE personal trainers, we give, certain workshops get Con Ed credits as well. So we're going to get back out there and start hitting it again as much as we can. So feel free to reach out. But like Jim said, we answer every single person, every single question. We'd love to talk about this stuff. We'd love to help people. It's not an imposition at all. And so don't be bashful. Reach out anytime.
I gotta say, and you guys both just said it, and I know some people that listen to this, listen to the podcast or watch us on YouTube or follow us on social media, sometimes they're hesitant to reach out to even myself, which
Sure.
I find ridiculous, you know,
Right.
but you know, I'm looking and talking to you guys, and you wrote a great book, you put out an awesome product, and people, and this goes for just about every guest I've had, you know, they're like, oh, I can't, these guys are never going to answer me, you know, and I got to say, just about everybody I've met on social media along this journey for however long it's been going on in the fire service is not like that. You know, I mean, just about all of them are willing to engage, are willing to talk to somebody, to help somebody. They're not looking, you know, they're not looking to line their pockets. They
Not at all.
genuinely care.
I'll
And I just wanted to make that point because you both said it, because I know there's people out there that are saying, "Oh, I'd love to shoot this guy a question, but he's not going to answer me," you know.
And I'll take that one step further, and I'll tell you, your listeners, that, you know, inherent in what we've chosen to do here is it's a tremendous uphill battle. We're trying to change. I hate to say change a culture, but because you don't want to just change a culture. We're trying to infuse these new ideas into what's already a great culture in a lot of respects in the fire service.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not an overnight thing. It's more of a legacy building kind of an approach, right? My hope is that 10, 12 years from now, that we won't have to be talking about this as much because by then, hopefully the young firefighters that are coming up are now in positions of responsibility, and this becomes the normal for them, not the exception in their departments. But along the way, we get disappointed, we get down, we get, you know, because we see the line of duty death reports, we hear the stories,
Right.
and it's very frustrating to us.
Sure.
So know that, you know, that simple email or text message or message on social media that asks a question or says, hey, you know, do you guys mind if I ask you a question or have a chat with you? That lifts us up. Actually, it makes us feel like sometimes that we actually maybe somebody's doing something to help themselves because of, you know, the message we're spreading. So it's a two-way street. We're trying to help people, but, you know, the simple conversation or text or phone call or whatever, that helps us sometimes too, believe it or not. It makes us feel like we're not beating our head against the wall.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate both of you taking time out of your busy schedules to join us tonight. It was definitely a great call that I was really looking forward to having, and I know we had to put things off for a week, but I'm glad it worked out with everything that everybody's got going on, and, you know, things slowly starting to open up. So I really appreciate your time and everything that you do for all of us in the fire service.
Yeah, thanks so much for having us on.
Yeah.
So I'll be sure to post how to get in touch with you in the show notes, and for anybody out there listening, please, you know, reach out to these guys. They're very accessible and very quick to respond. And again, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you both again. Thank you.
You too, Kara. Thanks.
All
Yeah,
right.
take care.
Stay healthy and stay safe. All right.
You're all too.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.